Good evening, you fantastic and glorious degenerates of this floating rock that we call Earth. Welcome to Off the Wire. I am your host, Noel Olin, aka the Cajun Libertarian, and we have an absolutely phenomenal show lined up for you tonight with outstanding video. And this is going to be so much fun. You are going to love basically every second of it, if not every single second of it. So, with that being said, let's get going tonight on Off the Wire. Also, abolish the ATF. Let's go. Yes, indeed. Let's rock because we have so much information and video, lots of video packed into tonight's episode of Off the Wire Live. No sponsors. Let's get right into it on this fine Monday that is April 24th, 2023. First up, Washington bill to allow medical transgender interventions on minors without parental consent, from the New York Post, April 17th. What? My God. This is outrageously ridiculous. You cannot do this. Is unfathomable. And as we will see in this very short article, just a couple of paragraphs long here, this is just state kidnapping, and it's being adopted in multiple states. Let's read the news. A Washington state bill that would strip parents' right to intervene on their kids' medical care in certain circumstances passed the House on Wednesday. This is in the state of Washington, clearing its pathway to being signed by Governor Jay Inslee. Quote, an act relating to supporting youth, end quote, or Support Bill 5599 allows host homes to runaway youth, quote, to house youth without parental permission. This is kidnapping. Furthermore, the host homes do not need to notify the parents about where their kids are or if they are getting medical interventions. End quote. What? Without notification. If there's a compelling reason to not, which includes a youth seeking protected health services, the protected health services include gender affirming care, which is a freaking euphemism. The euphemisms are never, ever going to stop. And so it's up to us, literally up to us, to combat this absolute destruction of the English language. Gender affirming, it's not gender affirming care. If it were affirming their gender, then they would be telling these children that the gender that they were assigned at birth, designated at birth, so forth and so, just scientifically acknowledged would be the more accurate description at birth. They would affirm that. This is destructive. beyond any measure I've ever seen in, quite honestly, my lifetime, for sure. Which for minors arbitrarily included anything prescribed by a doctor to treat dysphoria, the bill said. Quote, gender affirming treatment can be prescribed by to two-spirit, transgender, non-binary, and other gender diverse individuals, the bill stated. For minors, quote unquote affirming care typically included puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries. It was unclear which services would be approved underneath the bill. Instead of contacting parents, shelters can contact the Washington Department of Children, Youth and Families, DCYF. Instead, another quote unquote compelling reason not to notify the parents about the kids staying in a host home was, quote, circumstances that indicate notifying that the parents or legal guardians will subject the host to abuse or neglect. Really? Like what you're doing, government? My God, could I not go through a freaking list of everything that the government has been doing in your life specifically and your children's lives specifically for how many years now? But all of a sudden they pretend to care about your kids. This is remarkably evil beyond any circumstances that we have seen to date, even in regards to the absolute war machine destroying other countries. This goes far beyond that. Reason being is that it is happening right here in your house, in your home, with your freaking kids in a country that's supposed to be free. Unreal. This is absolute tyranny, psychotic behavior. And you're being told that if you oppose the state being able to kidnap your children because they were confused by how many outlets, by how many news outlets, by how many public school indoctrination camps, that they're supposed to believe something that's completely anti-science and goes against the entire grain of history. You're the problem. I'm the problem. Get bent. This is psychotic and child abuse, and it is a blatant human rights violation. Let's continue. The bill was criticized by opponents for being quote unquote child abuse. So it's now it's child abuse that you oppose the state kidnapping your children without your consent because of this obvious situation that's going on. Unreal. Clearly a situation that involves like just a popularity contest at the end of the day. Really, that's what it is. It's absolute tyranny and indoctrination being rained down upon your children via every single institution imaginable. But you're the problem for acknowledging it and saying, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not going along with this, not going to have it. But you're the problem. I'm the problem for a social contagion. A clear social contagion. It's not even close. That's absolutely what's happening. You can look at the numbers in the spike in this body dysmorphia is what it actually is, according to the DSM community. Not community, I'm sorry, the regulations when it comes in regards to the medical community. Amazing. Amazing. But you're the problem. You're the problem. So they can abduct your children because you say, excuse me, this is a clear social media issue and a clear governmental just endorsement issue and absolute social contagion. Again, look at the stats. But somehow we're the problem. Amazing. But it's not really. I mean, you can look. I've been screaming into the void for how many months now? A year or two, maybe. Definitely not 2 years, because this was not an issue 2 years ago when I first started this podcast, uh, which I just hit the 2-year mark, so I'm still very much a rookie, still trying to learn. Not an issue. This has been a recent development by all accounts. And when I mean recent, I mean like a major problem. And miss me with your garbage about how, oh, it's not happening to kids. I've had Chloe Cole on my show. Hormone therapy at 13. Double mastectomy at 15. Detransitioned at 16. 16! She may be sterilized for life. She definitely can't breastfeed any children she might want to have because she had them lopped off by this disgusting psychotic ideology. 100% a social contagion. The opposition said, opposition to the bill, according to the bill's text, quote, a parent's job is to protect their child. That's not controversial, but here we are. And we're not going to stand for it any longer. I promise you 1000%, this is over with. You've crossed the Rubicon. You've crossed the line in which we will absolutely just stand by and say, you do you, I'll do me. And I'm still for that. You're a grown-ass adult. Do you, boo-boo, do you. But you leave the kids alone. Full stop. This bill legalizes the kidnapping of children, allows for the harboring of minors, and segregates us from the union, end quote. After it passed, the House Democratic State Representative Tana Sin, who supported the bill, said, quote, I am saying tonight to them that I see you, that I affirm you, that I hear you, that I love you. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you loved these children, then under no circumstances would you be advocating for this whatsoever. Other states, such as California, are considering legislation that would restrict parents' rights. Some critics have accused a bill of, quote, state-sanctioned kidnapping, end quote. Yeah, because that's what it is. In March, California introduced a bill currently being reviewed in the state Senate. Students to be admitted into a group home without parental consent and approval from school counselors. This is kidnapping. You have no right to somebody else's children just because you want to affirm some sort of ideology that the parents may not or may agree with. Even some of them that do agree with, they might be like, yo, I'm cool with this, but I'm not cool with you taking my kids because I think I need to have a deeper discussion with my children about it. Amazing. Quote, it is apparent that one result of this bill will be the removal of trans-identified children from the family home in the End quote. In the dystopian nightmare we are in, if a parent doesn't use the child's chosen pronoun or name, they are labeled dangerous. Pamela Garfield Jager said in her testimony, according to Daily Signal. That's from an actual school counselor. Look, at this point, if you're still living in these states, I don't know what to tell you. You do you, I guess. I mean, move. Why live in these tyrannical, child abusing, anti-human states? Why? I get it can be tough. I get that. But why? Why on earth would you take the chance or the possibility of the fact that the state might come in and remove your children from you, abduct them, put them in an abusive situation, which we know that the Child Protective Services is far worse than the vast majority of most of these states, most of these institutions? You're going to continue to allow your family to be there and allow your children to be subjected to the possibility that they might be abducted by a tyrannical state and get far more abused? Why? Move, leave, and do it now. We'll leave that right there. Let's hear a word from our friends at CNN. Don Lemon abruptly ends segment when Vivek Ramaswamy schools him about history of gun control. Now, Vivek is a Republican, but he's my favorite conservative, personally. I'd probably vote for him if I was in a swing state because, I'm not doing freaking Donald Trump. Heck no. Ron DeSantis, look at his track record before he was the governor of Florida. Man, I'm telling you. But Vivek is brilliant. Brilliant. Don't agree with a lot of what he says, especially when it comes to the border and other things. But the guy is brilliant. And Don Lemon, RIP, brother. You got wrecked. Don Lemon abruptly ends segment when Vivek Ramaswamy schools him about history of gun control. And every single thing that Vivek says in this video, I've got multiple clips. He's 100% accurate. 100% accurate. Let's look at the first one.
Joining us now, a frequent guest on Fox News, Republican presidential candidate and tech entrepreneur, Vivek Ramaswamy. So we are happy to have you. I'm going to talk to you more than just about Fox News, but good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
What do you make of this decision to settle this case?
I mean, it strikes me as a cost of doing business. If you're going to be a news network, I think it's happened to CNN. I think it's happened to a lot of news networks.
That has not
happened. It's a cost of doing business.
That has not happened to CNN. This is
never been sued for defamation. Never been actually settled.
This is the largest
it's definitely large, and Fox appears to have the largest viewership and the market capitalization. So I'm not familiar with the details of this case. I'm actually more interested in issues relating to this country.
Outstanding. He nails them. Oh, that's not happening. That never happened at CNN. Oh, you never had a defamation lawsuit? And then they immediately retreat and say, we never had one this big. Maybe granted true, but absolutely stuck to the wall. Great job right there. Now let's continue with this article right here from the Blaze 420. 420. CNN anchor Don Lemon abruptly ended a segment with Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy after a tense back and forth about gun rights and Black Americans. During an interview on CNN this morning, co-host Poppy Harlow asked Ramaswamy about his speech last week at the NRA convention. In that speech, Ramaswamy connected gun control laws and the campaign to address Black Americans after the Civil War. Ramaswamy told Harlow that he was referring to President Joe Biden's infamous 2012 claim that Republicans want to put Black Americans, quote unquote, back in chains. Real response. Now, let's get to the second video because there is a lot that has happened in this segment, some of which does not apply to the article. Now, I'm going to have to find and hope that I pull up the right one. If not, that's okay. We'll move on to the next one because they're all freaking incredible.
You've said this week speaking.
Let's see. What's happening? Add to stream, StreamYard. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. It's coming.
I want you to raise your hand if you know when the first anti-gun laws were passed in this country. Raise your hand if you do. 1865. You want to know when it happened? We fought a civil war in this country to give Black Americans the equal protection under the law that we failed to secure them in 1776.
Outstanding. I've got a better video of that specifically coming up really quick. Let me try another one because these are absolutely outstanding. And so just hang on with me for 1 second because they're amazing. Oh, let's see. 346, 352, 403. We're going to go with 335 and see if that's the right one. If it's not, then we're going to move on. So hang out because this gets really intense and extremely entertaining.
Running for president?
The details of a private dispute between a commercial dispute and the details of what the dollar figures are, that's not where I spend. That's really not where I spend my time. But what I will say is, look, there's defamation cases. People settle businesses. If you settle business disputes, Fox settled this one. It's actually not, I think, the pressing issue for the nation of what Fox News' settlement is.
I disagree with that because as you just admitted, you said Fox is the largest viewership, one of the largest viewerships among television networks, and especially.
Note that he just said because of what Vivek said. Now, I can't stand Fox. I've never owned cable television whatsoever in my life, ever. Under my paychecks, never. Can't stand Fox. Hope they go down in flames. Want them to go down in flames. But notice how Vivek made Don Lemon literally acknowledge that Fox trumps them in viewership. Absolutely outstanding. And then he has to kind of backtrack it and say, well, one of the biggest viewed cable network TV. It's by far the biggest viewed, and they're all trash, complete garbage. But by the numbers, by the statistics, yes, Fox News is by and large the largest viewed cable network. Let's keep going.
Cable networks, considering the eyes, the American people who are tuning into Fox News to get their information and to get it accurately, I'm surprised that you would say that you're not concerned about this and this is not something that is hugely pressing for the American people.
Here's the way I look at it.
Freedom of the press is the First Amendment in the Constitution.
Oh, exactly. You nailed it. The freedom of the press. So we have CNN, we have Fox. I'm here with you guys. I go on Fox News. I think that's great that we have a marketplace of ideas in this country. What I worry more about, Don, is the trend that we see in this country to controlling what different parties are actually able to say. The American way to bad speech is more speech. And so I think we need to actually embrace that culture and a more diverse marketplace of ideas.
Vivek,
that's something we haven't done well enough in this country.
With all honesty, you're not answering the question. You're giving us platitudes about...
I'm actually unsure what your question is, Don. Do you want somebody to bash Fox News on CNN?
No, I'm not
asking you to bash Fox. I'm not asking you to bash Fox News.
I'm asking you to be honest about what happened on Fox News, about the lies that were told and them having to admit the lies and paying the largest defamation settlement to a media company in history. And you are a frequent guest on that network. Are you concerned about the credibility? Are you going to continue to go on that network even with those credibility issues?
I have far more concerns with the credibility of what we will call the mainstream media than I do with the credibility of Fox News. But
Fox is the mainstream media.
At the end of the day, what I say is, look, neither you nor I know the details because they settled it before it went to trial. I think the obsession over this is a little weird.
Vivek, listen,
it's a little bizarre.
I don't want to get into that.
There's real issues to talk about in the country. Why are we talking about Fox News and the settlement?
This is a very big and important story. And I'm not going to, we have much more that we want to talk about.
I think we should.
That's good. I love it. I love it. I think we should, because he's absolutely 100% right. You want to focus on some sort of garbage lawsuit settlement that you've been involved in, CNN. And you can also go back and rewatch the video and see how uncomfortable the girl starts to get when Vivek absolutely pins them down. We're supposed to talk about this when we have actual real problems to deal with? Get bent. It gets worse. It gets, the way Vivek wrecks him gets worse. Let's watch the next one.
A lot of
comparing it to CNN is not this apples and oranges. It's not the same thing.
Well, it's, different networks. Yes, apples aren't the same as oranges. You get one view through CNN, you get a different view through Fox News. I think that's good in our marketplace of ideas is that we have media that offers diverse perspectives. And you want to talk about threats to our democracy? One of the threats, and that phrase is an interesting one, threats to our democracy. I think one of the biggest ones is the chilling effect on speech in our country more broadly, where if somebody says something that a broad segment of the population or certain people in the government disagree with, there's an increasing trend in our country to silence that. And the answer to bad speech and alleged misinformation is not less speech. It is more speech in the marketplace of ideas. That's actually what a free press really means.
We're going to move on, but your answer was good, but it's not about what's actually happened. It's not relevant to what's happening. I think the answer to what happened at Fox News is to tell the truth. Media companies are tasked with telling the truth. That did not happen in the situation, and that's why we're asking these questions. But let's move on.
Let's talk more about a diverse exchange of ideas. That's what I'm in for. Thank you.
Yes, that's what I'm in for. Thank you. Absolutely destroys him because he's 100% right. What are you talking about? Coming from Don Lemon on CNN, that media companies are required and are tasked to tell the truth. You're going to say that, Don Lemon on CNN? Get out of here. You absolute clown. You propagandist, you gaslighting, dystopian freaking liar. Incredible. Incredible. So let's see what Vivek had to say at the NRA conference, because he's right. He's right.
I want to better understand something you said this week speaking before the audience at the NRA. Here's what you said, referring to back to 1865. Here it was.
I want you to raise your hand if you know when the first anti-gun laws were passed in this country. Raise your hand if you do. 1865. You want to know when it happened? We fought a civil war in this country to give black Americans the equal protection under the law that we failed to secure them in 1776. But then you want to know what happened? Southern states passed anti-gun laws that stopped black people from owning guns. The Democrat Party, then as in now, wanted to put them back in chains.
Then as in now, that's quite an accusation about the current Democratic Party. Who and what were you referring to?
I was referring to Joe Biden and his expression of wanting to put them back in chains, dating back to Lyndon Johnson.
It's just glorious. That gets even better. Give me 1 second while I address a couple of these comments. Morgan Dow says, and love you, man. Of course, you know that. He says, dead air isn't good, Cajun. If I had any dead air, I promise it wasn't on me. It's just because the videos aren't playing really well. Morgan Dow, gun laws are racist. Yes, We are getting into that right now. Right now. Chris, you should download videos ahead of time. I did. All of these are downloaded. It's funny. All right. Let's get to the next one because, as Morgan just said, all gun laws are racist.
Americans, that war was not fought for black people to have guns. That's not.
That war was fought for black people to have freedoms in this country.
Yeah.
Actually, that's why the Civil War was fought.
Okay.
And the sad
that
part
wasn't
about
fought for black people to have guns. I think.
Actually, you know, funny fact is, black people did not get to enjoy the other freedoms until their Second Amendment rights were secured. And I think that that's one of the lessons that we learned.
Still aren't allowed to enjoy the freedoms.
I disagree with you on that, Don. I disagree with you. And I think you're doing a disservice to our country by failing to recognize the fact that we have equality before the law.
And you live in this country, then you can disagree with me. But we're not. You mentioned in here that we have three different shades
Don, I think we have to be able to
here.
talk about these issues in the open, regardless of the color of our skin. Black Americans today, to say that, compare that to 1865 and 1964,
I think for you to compare it to
absolutely
1865 and
have equal rights in
1964
this
is
country.
actually, I think it's insulting to black people. It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating for you to put those things together. It's not right. Your telling of history is wrong. What
part of the history was wrong?
What part of the history was wrong? That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for black people, only for black people to get guns and for black people to have.
The Civil War was fought for black people in this country to get freedoms, a noble mission. And I think that even after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
To reduce it in a speech at the NRA to say you're making people think, or you're trying to say that black people to get guns, that was the reason that you're there at the NRA. That was the reason for the Civil War.
It is a fact.
That's reductive.
It's not
and
reductive,
I think it's
Don.
insulting. There are a whole plethora of reasons that for the Civil War.
With due respect, I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to black Americans, to say that.
Incredible. He just nails them to the wall. And then notice the fact that he doesn't say with all due respect. He just says with due respect, because Don Lemon deserves no respect. The fact that he's going to sit there in that garbage chair at CNN and say, oh, you can't talk about this and you can't debate this because you're not black, even though it's a freaking minority. And regardless of otherwise, whether you are or not, the statistics are the statistics. And it does not matter what color your skin is. Gun control is racist. And Vivek nails him for it. And that's why he retreats to such a garbage argument that has absolutely no intellectual validity whatsoever. None. Because he's a garbage person with zero facts on his side. And Vivek crucifies him, hypothetically, to the wall. And he can't handle it because he's trash. And then, let's play the next one. Let's play the last one, because what happens next is truly disgusting. Disgusting. Don Lemon needs to be eradicated from every single platform the world has ever seen. And we're going to end the show right after I commentate on this last video. Let's go.
People, say what you said again.
Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They were not secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to happen.
And you know how they got it?
War
they got their Second Amendment rights, and they actually got, the NRA played a big role in that. But today, Don, the
NRA did not play a big role in that.
They trained black Americans how to use firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role in that.
This is just historical fact.
It's not historical fact.
The part that I find,
because you say it's historical fact,
the part that I find insulting is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after we have gone through civil rights revolution in this country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's where you and I have a
the
different
freedoms
point
that
of view.
black and white that black people don't have in this country, and that black people do have.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless of the color of our skin. We should have this debate
I'm not saying you
without
shouldn't
me
express your
regarding
views,
you as a
but I think
black
it's
man,
insulting that
but
you're
me
sitting
regarding you
here,
as a fellow citizen.
that you're
That's what I
sitting
think we
here,
should see.
whatever ethnicity you are, explaining to me
Whatever ethnicity
about
I am, I'll
what
tell
it's
you-
like to be black
Whatever
in America.
ethnicity I am, I'll tell you what I am. I'm an Indian American. I'm proud of it. But I think we should have this debate. Black, white, doesn't matter.
I think we should have this
on
debate.
the content of the
If you're
ideas.
going to do it, you should do it in an honest way and in a fair way. And what you're doing is not an honest and fair way. Okay?
With-
But we
with-
appreciate you coming on.
With
Thank
due
you for
respect,
that.
Don, I look forward
Thank
to
you very
continuing
much.
that
I appreciate
conversation.
it. We'll
Thank
continue
you.
the conversation.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, Papa.
We'll talk about China.
Yes, let's talk about
Next
China.
time you come back.
Oh, thank you. Much to say on declaring independence from China.
Okay,
Something you
can
can
we
add
move on now, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a disgusting, pathetic individual. You have no right to sit there and lecture anyone whatsoever about the historical accuracies of gun control in this country, you pathetic loser of a human being. Don Lemon should be absolutely just erased from media altogether whatsoever. So Vivek, let's put aside the fact that there's no requisite for who can and can't talk about the historical accuracies or inaccuracies of this country when it comes to gun control and the racial elements of which that has a major element. The initial gun control laws were implemented specifically to prevent Black and Indigenous Americans from being able to protect themselves. Period. That's a historical fact. And he's going to sit there and tell Vivek that it is, oh, you can say it's a historical fact, but it isn't, when it is clearly outlined in the historical data of this country. It's infuriating. And I'm so freaking glad that we have a person. Oh, by the way, Don. I'm so sorry. R.I.P., brother. R.I.P. Because you clearly did not do your research on Vivek Ramaswamy. You obviously did not. There's quite literally a legitimate possibility that Vivek may be a legitimate and solidified genius. The guy is absolutely brilliant. You stepped into shark waters and you got eaten alive. R.I.P. Don Lemon. And then the only thing he had to do, only thing he could do was resort to, you're not Black, even though you're a minority, and that doesn't even matter. You got absolutely torn apart with truth and facts, and you got emotionally charged because you have no facts. Because you're a propagandist, because you're an emotionally driven liar, Vivek absolutely ate you alive. And I'm so here for it. By the way, Don Lemon got fired today. So take that how you wish. But I'm here for it. This is disgusting. This is absolutely horrible. What these people like Don Lemon are doing to their own freaking community. Armed minorities are harder to oppress. There's a reason, and I will be doing a segment on this week, that Black women are the rising demographic of who are purchasing firearms and at a massive rate. Get it. Abolish the ATF, get your firearms, protect your community, protect your children, especially from governments like Washington, and stop believing the lies that Don freaking Lemon is puking all over your own community. A truly disgusting and abhorrent human being with absolutely no facts, education whatsoever. Just a propagandist at the tool at the hands that want to see your community dead because you don't have any ability to protect yourself. Vivek. Slow clap, standing clap. Great job. If I were a Republican, I would be standing up on the rooftops saying, Vivek is your man. Trump is ridiculous. DeSantis is a tyrant. If you want your country to succeed, and if our only two options are Republican or Democrat, Vivek Ramaswamy all day long. Brilliant, billionaire, independent. I'm a fan. Again, I disagree with a lot of what Vivek says because he's a Republican and I'm not. I'm a libertarian. But if my two choices are Republican and Democrat, which are not in my state, but I'm saying in a purple state, Vivek Ramaswamy for the win. And look what he just did to Don Lemon in real time. I'll leave it right there. I'll comb through your comments tomorrow night. I love you very much. Galatians 2:20. I am out.